Hello world of gamers. Going off on a little bit of a tangent, discussing a topic which is kind of a response. It's an out-of-date response to a channel, Roller X Core. He did a video response about a year ago which I commented on, asking himself the question in response to somebody else: am I a video game collector? When I first had a YouTube channel showing my video game collection and making all different types of video game content related videos, I did communicate sometimes with Roller X Core. He used to comment on my videos and then started a channel, and I would watch his videos. A lot of the times they were pickups videos and I would comment. He's a nice guy. I have dipped in and out of his channel in the time since I decided to quit and then come back. And I watched this video and then revisited it again. And I was listening to him talk about the realities of video game collecting for him, and recognizing after a few years that it links into addiction. He, in quite a tongue-in-cheek, self-deprecating way — is it deprecating or deprecating? Whichever — talked about being addicted to collecting games and hinted about past addictions without going too much into details about those things. And I can relate. I'll tell you a little bit about the journey. First of all, actually, I'll tell you something about me personally. I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery from drug addiction for 15 years now. And in that time, I've also recognized other addictive behavior and had to do work in order to root out those issues, bring them to the light, expose them for what they are, so that I can continue healing. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to go too far into that. When I started playing video games, when I first started collecting video games, my mind tried to have two conversations at the same time there. I consider myself a gamer first and a collector second. I have a lot of games simply because I enjoy playing games. And there were periods in my life when I couldn't buy the games that I wanted to buy. And that is one of the reasons why I buy the games that I buy today, with the intention of playing them. But when I first got into collecting video games, let's go back to that. The sole intention was to own an original Xbox game because it's one of my favourite consoles. And once I did that, I started looking for horror games for the original Xbox. And this is going back to about 2014. I was searching on YouTube for horror games for the original Xbox games that I missed out on. Some of the games that you can see here in part of the Xbox collection. A lot of the games are behind. And I came across a well-known YouTube channel. And at that time, one of the popular video topics was hidden gems for consoles. And I started watching those videos, and it sparked something inside of me that became my desire to purchase games, which very quickly, I have to say, turned into quite a substantial video game collection. I had a much bigger collection than the one I have today, And because of how cheap games were back then, prices were starting to rise, but a lot of games were still very cheap. It only took us about 2 years to amass quite a significant video game collection. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun hunting for video games. I had a lot of fun playing some of the video games that I was picking up. Obviously, it got to the point quickly where I had more games and not enough time to be able to play them all. And I think that is something that happens to a lot of people when they start collecting. They might have the intention that they want to play the games that they pick up, but they pick them up so quickly that eventually they just don't have the time and they end up with shelves full of games. But I can only talk about myself and some of the experiences I've had talking to other people about video game collecting. After a few years, maybe 3-4 years of collecting, buying and selling in order to buy the games that I wanted to really have, which I've talked about before, so I'll not go back into that now. I started to experience feeling uncomfortable with what I was doing. And I started to recognize that the way that I was behaving was I started to recognize that it was following a similar pathway to the one that I recognized as being my problematic behaviors that led me to being addicted to alcohol and drugs. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop picking up games. I had this routine. I had this imprint on my brain from doing this on a daily basis for a few years. And when I got uncomfortable and I realized that I needed to rethink what I was doing, I found it really difficult to stop. I did eventually get to the point, through doing some more work on myself, of being able to not pick up as many games, to sell off a big chunk of my collection, and to get to the point where I'm at now, where I can say that how I collect is definitely a lot healthier. I feel a lot better about it. I don't feel as uncomfortable. One of the things I was really uncomfortable about was how much money I was spending. Yes, I was making lots of money reselling games, but I was spending a lot. And sometimes I was spending money I didn't have. And that's never a good thing. But I feel a lot healthier about how I'm doing it today. I don't have a huge collection. I don't have a mega expensive collection. My Atlas collection is my most prized collection. And as I've talked about before, the way that I collect those games is done by, the majority of the time, selling other games. Obviously, I've got to pay for those games to sell them. But a lot of what I've sold is stuff that I bought a long time ago at low prices that I've been able to make lots of profit on. And that time will stop. Eventually, I'm going to run out of things to sell for profit, because video games, as I've spoken about before, are now at the point where it's difficult to make profit unless you bought games a long time ago. But I feel better about it. So do I consider myself a video game collector? Yes, definitely. I have a collection of video games. I can't escape that. I have games for a number of different consoles and handhelds. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's just do a quick count, right? I've got PS1. I've got PS2. I've got PSP. I've got PS Vita. I've got Game Boy and Game Boy Advanced. I've got Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS. I've got Nintendo Switch. I've got original Xbox. I've got Xbox 360. In another room, I have PlayStation 5. I have an Xbox Series S. I don't have a PlayStation 4 anymore, but I do still have PlayStation 4 games because I can play them on the PlayStation 5. And I think that's it. And that's a lot. Even though it's a small collection, that is still a lot of games and consoles and handhelds. So I'm definitely a collector. But I would say that I've evolved as a collector from one who had become very much dependent on it in unhealthy ways, addicted to the chase, to finding things. I've evolved into somebody who has carefully created his collection, is much more satisfied with what he has and the goals that he has and the way that he's putting the collection together. I'm doing it in a sensible way, in a smart way. I'm not just blasting money out at things anymore because I fear that I won't be able to have the games. And I've been able to let games go, let so many games go. And because of my interest in modern, I've also found other ways to play games that might be very expensive to buy. So rather than just buying them to own them and stick them on a shelf, I have ways that I can play them. And that's me. Thank you for tuning in. If you are, catch you in the next one. Stay safe.